Hello, it's Willie from the Ozarks, and we're ready for our July 21st lesson, Lesson 202, in A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students. Lesson 202 is, let's read it here just a moment. These are the review lessons, and Lesson 202 is, I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I will be still a moment and go home. We're that close to home. Just by being still in this world, you can be at home. Why would I choose to stay an instant more where I do not belong, when God Himself has given me His voice to call me home? I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. So we're going to talk a little more about that. We're going to at least put it in our mind a few times. We're going to talk about how to be sure that we're doing the review lessons correctly. And I'm sitting here on, what is that? This place is called the Pump Station Dam River Access of the West Fork. I guess it's the West Fork of the White River, just south of Fayetteville, Arkansas. And beautiful place out here. It's an old dam that's returned into nature. So I wanted to reiterate some of the things that Jesus had told us about how to do the review. And for the ones of y'all that think that I need to speak more, I'd like to bring your attention that Jesus has already given us an incredible manuscript. And I really feel like my responsibility is just to make it more accessible, more, you know, make it more to where we can actually receive it. So hearing it more than once is a good thing. Hearing it many times, it's written at a very high level of consciousness. So let's look at the review again. And I know that it's something I think there are several things I wanted to say about it. And I thought, well, you know what, let's just read it again. The review, number 6. For this review, we take but one idea each day and practice it as often as is possible. Beside the time we give morning and evening, which should not be less than 15 minutes, and the hourly remembrance we make throughout the day, use the idea as often as you can between them. Each of these ideas alone would be sufficient for salvation if it were learned truly. Each would be enough to give release to you and to the world from every form of bondage and invite the memory of God to come again. So the memory of God, happiness, to be released from the prison house of our own thoughts. This is what these ideas are intended to bring about. He wants us to think about them in the morning for at least 15 minutes and in the evening. And when I say think about them, really what he wants to do is to say the lesson and then to be still and quiet and allow God to teach you. You don't have to just keep repeating the idea. That's not necessary. You can if you want. If that helps you, well then do it. But really what he would like for you to do is to say the idea and then to trust him in the silence to bring you thoughts. If you start thinking about thoughts that clearly aren't part of the curriculum, you might say the lesson again just to bring your attention back to where we're wanting to be. Paragraph 2 in the review. And then also he wants us to have an hourly remembrance at the top of the hour, and then as many remembrances as possible between that hour. So he really wants us to grab this idea. All these 20 lessons that we're going to review, plus the associated concept, my mind is part of God, or I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. And then along with the idea for today, which today is, I will be still an instant and go home. That's how I learned it in the Foundation for Inner Peace's version. This in the original version, it's, I will be still a moment and go home. All right, so I will be still a moment and go home, and then sandwich that again between, I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. In these next nearly 30 weeks, we should really have that down, that I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. Because not only are we supposed to be saying it in the morning when we first awake and when we go to bed, before we go to sleep, the last 15 minutes and the first 15 minutes of the day, or whenever you can reach to it. I try to have mine a little earlier in the evening, even though I do fall asleep often. The last thing I do is my meditation, but I like to have it a little bit earlier because I'm more alert and more awake. All right, that's paragraph 2. With this in mind, we start our practicing, in which we carefully review the thoughts the Holy Spirit has bestowed on us in our last 20 lessons. Each contains the whole curriculum if understood, practiced, accepted, and applied to all the seeming happenings throughout the day. Remember, we want to apply these ideas to the seeming happenings throughout the day. He says seeming happenings because we're really dreaming this. It's all a pictorial representation of your own state of mind, the world that you are living in. One is enough. But for that one, there must be no exceptions made. And so we need to use them all and let them blend as one, as each contributes to the whole we learn. These practice sessions, like our last review, are centered around a central theme with which we start and end each lesson. It is this: I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. The day begins and ends with this, and we repeat it every time the hour strikes, or we remember in between we have a function that transcends the world we see. Beyond this, and a repetition of the special thought we practice for the day, no form of exercise is urged, except a deep relinquishment of everything that clutters up the mind and makes it deaf to reason, sanity, and simple truth. So we want to get the things that clutter up our mind, that keep us deaf from reason, sanity, and the simple truth. We want to clear those misperceptions up so we don't have to live by those dictates anymore, and that we're truly free. We will attempt to get beyond all words and special forms of practicing for this review, for we attempt this time to reach a quickened pace along a shorter path to the serenity and peace of God. We merely close our eyes and then forget all that we thought we knew and understood. For thus is freedom given us from all we did not know and failed to understand. There is but one exception to this lack of structuring. Permit no idle thought to go unchallenged. Permit no idle thought to go unchallenged. If there's a thought that comes that disrupts your peace or pulls you from your joy, well, then you need to challenge it with the truth, which is be still an instant and go home. It's really simple. We attempt this time to reach a quickened pace along a shorter path to the serenity and peace of God. We merely close our eyes and then forget all that we thought we knew and understood. For thus is freedom given us from all we did not know and failed to understand. There is but one exception to this lack of structuring. Permit no idle thought to go unchallenged. If you noticed one, deny its hold and hasten to assure your mind that this is not what it would have. Then gently let the thought which you denied be given up in sure and quick exchange for the idea we practice for the day. When you are tempted, hasten to proclaim your freedom from temptation as you say, "This thought I do not want. I choose instead," and today you would say, today you would, as an example, today you would say, "This thought I do not want. I choose instead, I will be still a moment and go home." But be sure to put the rest of it in there too. I am as God created me. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I will be still a moment and go home. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. And then repeat the idea for the day and let it take the place of what you thought. Beyond such special applications of each day's idea, We will add but few formal expressions for specific thoughts to aid in your practicing. Instead, we give these times of quiet to the teacher who instructs in quiet, speaks of peace, and gives our thoughts whatever meaning they may have. To him I offer this review to you. Now here's Jesus speaking about the Holy Spirit. And he says, to him, the Holy Spirit, I offer this review to you. I place you in his charge and let him teach you what to do and say and think each time you turn to him. He will not fail to be available to you each time you call to him to help you. Let us offer him the whole review we now begin, and let us also not forget to whom it has been given as we practice day by day, advancing toward the goal he sets for us, allowing him to teach us how to go, trusting him completely for the way each practice period can best become a loving gift of freedom to the world. All right, so hopefully you have got that down, what you're to do with these next 20 lessons, and we won't read that again. If you need to go back and review it, by all means do so. Yesterday we were reading in chapter 2, and we ended off at paragraph ready for 13, but I want to read 12 again. We get a rolling start at this. The world in the original connotation of the term included both the proper creation of man by God and the proper creation by man in his right mind. The latter required the endowment of man by God with free will, because all loving creation is freely given. Nothing in these statements implies any sort of level involvement, or in fact anything except one continuous line of creation in which all aspects are of the same order. 13. When the lies of the serpent were introduced, they were specifically called lies because they are not true. When man listened, all he heard was untruth. He does not have to continue to believe what is not true unless he chooses to do so. All of his miscreations can literally disappear in the twinkling of an eye, because they are merely visual misperceptions. Man's spiritual eye can sleep, but a sleeping eye can still see. What is seen in dreams seems to be very real. The Bible mentions that a deep sleep fell upon Adam, and nowhere is there any reference to his waking up. Well, we're wanting to wake up now, aren't we? The history of man in the world as he sees it has not yet been marked by any genuine or comprehensive reawakening or rebirth. This is impossible as long as man projects in the spirit of miscreation. It still remains within him, however, to project as God projected his own spirit to him. In reality, this is the only choice, because his free will was given him for his own joy in creating the perfect. So your free will was given to you so that you could enjoy life and create as you wanted to, as you saw it be perfect in your oneness with God. Your joy might be complete and overflowing. 15. All fear is ultimately reducible to the basic misperception that man has the ability to usurp the power of God. We need to read that one again. All fear is ultimately reducible to the basic misperception that man has the ability to usurp the power of God. It can only be emphasized that he neither can nor has been able to do this. In this fact lies the real justification for his escape from fear. The escape is brought about by his acceptance of the atonement, which places him in a position to realize that his own errors never really occurred. And what's the atonement? When you forgive everybody for everything all the time, you've entered into the atonement. You're practicing the vision of Christ. When the deep sleep fell upon Adam, he was in a condition to experience nightmares because he was asleep. If a light is suddenly turned on while someone is dreaming a fearful dream, he may initially interpret the light itself as part of his own dream and be afraid of it. However, when he awakens, the light is correctly perceived as the release from the dream, which is no longer accorded reality. It is quite apparent that this release does not depend on the kind of knowledge which is nothing more than deceiving lies. The knowledge which illuminates, rather than obscures, is the knowledge which not only sets you free, but which also shows you clearly that you are free. Whatever lies you may believe are of no concern to the miracle. Isn't that reassuring? Whatever lies you may unconsciously still be holding are of no concern to the miracle, which can heal any of them with equal ease. Remember, there's no order of difficulty in miracles. There's not one that's harder or easier than another. They're all easy. They're all manifestations of God in your life. Manifestations of love, which corrects all errors. Whatever lies you may believe are of no concern to the miracle, which can heal any of them with equal ease. It makes no distinctions among misperceptions. Its sole concern is to distinguish between truth on the one hand and all kinds of errors on the other. Some miracles may seem to be of greater magnitude than others. But remember the first point of this course, that there is no order of difficulty in miracles. In reality, you are perfectly unaffected by all expressions of lack of love. Remember that. In reality, you are perfectly unaffected by all expressions of lack of love. And we want to get to that reality, that it's already occurring. We're already there. We're perfectly there right now. But that doesn't mean you believe it. And if you don't believe it and you can't see it, well then you live out a dream of being traumatized. You're upset. You're discouraged. And we're going to get beyond all those things, aren't we? In reality, you are perfectly unaffected by all expressions of lack of love. These can be either from yourself and others, or from yourself to others, or from others to you, as where all the lacks of love can come from and to. Peace is an attribute in you. You cannot find it outside. All mental illness is some form of external searching. Remember that one. All mental illness is some form of external searching. Mental health is inner peace. It enables you to remain unshaken by lack of love from without and capable through your own miracles of correcting the external conditions which proceed from lack of love in others. Let's read that last little bit again. This is so applicable in our lesson for today. I will be still a moment and go home. All mental illness is some form of external searching. Mental health is inner peace. It enables you to remain unshaken by lack of love from without and capable through your own miracles of correcting the external conditions which proceed from lack of love in others. All right. So let's go back to our lesson for today once again. But before we do, I've got to show you this. I met some friends yesterday, some new friends, and at their home they had some spearmint. They'd made some spearmint tea to share with us all, and it had such a nice flavor, and it was a little different than my peppermint that I had growing. And I'd wanted to get some spearmint, and I asked them if I could get a start, and they suggested that I just take some of the cuttings and that they root really easily. So we're going to find out. So here's some spearmint. We've got it in, you pull the leaves off the bottom, put it in water, and leave it in a, I'm going to leave it in a partially sunny, kind of an indirect windowsill place with, get some light, but not a lot. And we'll see if it sprouts. We'll give it a, you know, probably a couple, 3 weeks. Maybe about the time that we're finishing our review lessons. It'll have some roots on it, be ready to plant in the dirt. Okay, I want to tell you a little bit I found about spearmint that I thought was real interesting. I found this on rxlist.com. And by the way, spearmint, I'm pretty sure that the variety I picked was Mentha spicata for the Latin name. But here's what it said on the RX list. It's used for medicine in digestive disorders, including gas, indigestion, nausea, diarrhea, upper gastrointestinal tract spasms, IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, bile duct and gallbladder swelling or inflammation, and gallstones. So it has a lot of wonderful benefits, as well as it just tastes really good. All right, so there's your spearmint. Now let's, one more time before we leave for the day, let us look at lesson 202 again. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I will be still a moment and go home, or I will be still an instant and go home. Why would I choose to stay an instant more where I do not belong, when God Himself has given me His voice to call me home? So the Holy Spirit is wanting us to come home. And how do we get there? Well, it's not through dying. Don't ever fall into that misperception. You get there by being still and quiet, and knowing that God is with you here now. This is home when you go inside. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I will be still a moment and go home. I will be still a moment and go home. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. So until tomorrow, remember well to be still and go home. Be still an instant and go home. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me.